I'm speaking here with Terry Smith, and we are out in the field here. And I know, Terry, you're getting towards the end of harvesting for the crops that you've got, and doing some soybeans today. How's the harvest been going so far this year?
Well, we've had slow off and on because of the weather, but early beans we got out helped a lot. They were ready early, and the weather was a little better early.
Well, speaking of that weather, what kind of challenges did you have through the season this year?
Well, planting was pretty well the same as harvest. We had a lot of days that were wet, and couldn't run, and it just drug it out pretty long, and the harvest has been the same way, just slow.
Well, we'd like to talk about Headline and your experience using it. So, how did that perform for you this year?
Well, this first year I've used it, and it performed well for us this time.
What would you say were some of the main benefits that you found from using the product on your crops?
Well, the yield, we had a 9 bushel bump where we used it and didn't use it was 9 bushel less.
So when you look at things like plant health, yield advantage, quality, standability, although I know you're not growing any corn out here this year, but how would you say that worked in terms of some of those specifics?
Yeah, the plants were healthy. They grew a little taller, just like I say, when they yield 9 more bushel, that's significant, very significant.
So did you have both some fields that were treated Headline and some not treated?
Well, where we treated, we stripped it where we could test it in a middle of a field or through the field, and that's where we did our checks.
So what were the differences that you saw?
Well, the field that we documented and they weighed and measured, we saw a 9 bushel increase with the use of Headline where it wasn't used, and then I had another field that the airplane had put on, and we sprayed part of it with Headline, and where we quit and didn't, we checked it with our yield monitor, and it was around 8 bushel difference.
Have you used any similar products in the past, and if so, how did they compare?
I haven't in recent years used anything like that.
Well, I know you're harvesting and getting near the end, it sounds like, which puts you probably a little ahead of some others that I've talked to. How would you say your fields are looking then here at the end of the year?
Well, we've already harvested where we've used it. It was on our early beans, and the first beans we cut we had used the product.
Well, looking ahead, do you think you'd plan to use Headline again?
Yeah, we're going to increase our coverage of acres this year with Headline. Hopefully it'll work good again, and we're very pleased with it. We're going to increase several more acres with it this year.
Well, I know that it certainly helps with some disease pressure that you might have, but do you see that as the main reason to use it, or would you use it even if you didn't know that you had a specific pressure situation?
Well, yes and no. The 9 bushel yield is, main thing, or any yield. If it overpays for the cost of the product, the guy's, going to use it whether it helps for disease or whatever the reason for the yield is. That's what I'm interested in, the bottom line.
So would you recommend Headline to other growers, and if there was one thing you could really point out to them, what would that be?
Well, I'd recommend them, to try it, and if, like myself, I'm going to increase my use of it, let them decide for themselves, but I sure going to use more of it next year.
Well, we certainly are glad to have the opportunity to talk to you out here, Terry, in your field, and going to let you get back to finishing up because I know you're right near the end, it sounds like, and that's got to be a good feeling. So thank you again, Terry Smith, speaking with us here about his experience with Headline at harvest time. I'm Chuck Zimmerman.